Now, today is a big day for people who have been following the situation going on with the Grenfell Tower, because that disaster, which claimed 72 lives, has led to an enormous government inquiry. And today, the final report into what happened is actually being published. The report's going to examine how the tower block came to be in a condition that allowed the fire to not just catch hold, but to spread so devastatingly and burn that building in the way that we all sadly saw on the news at the time. Meanwhile, thousands of other people outside of Grenfell Tower are still going to be watching this incredibly closely, because they are living in homes with flammable cladding and other fire safety defects across the country. I'm joined now by Paula Chalou from the End Our Cladding Scandal campaign group. Hello, Paula.
Hello, good morning.
So, the report, first of all, into Grenfell. What's your reaction to the fact that the final report is actually going to be published today, 7 years on?
Well, first and foremost, our thoughts today are naturally with the Grenfell bereaved and survivors who desperately need and deserve justice. It's been a very long time coming, but the report being published today is hopefully an important first step in holding to account those responsible for the loss of 72 innocent lives. So that's my initial thought.
And it's one of these things that it has had such an enormous impact on people, the people who were directly affected by the fire itself, and then literally thousands of other people who found themselves in this situation where they've realised their building is potentially at risk, and they're not quite sure how much it's going to cost to get it repaired, the uncertainty over whether they can ever move out, sell, those kind of things. It's had an astonishing number of knock-on effects.
Yeah, absolutely. Everything you've just said. And it's sort of been an unfolding horror story, really. And the truth is that the actual size of the crisis still remains unknown. But what we do know is that hundreds of thousands of people across the country are still living in unsafe buildings. So they're going to bed at night, scared that if the fire breaks out in the building, will they get out alive? And you can only imagine that if if a person has disabilities or maybe young children or a baby, that fear is only magnified. And then if you add to that, obviously, the financial stress and the emotional stress involved in, having to battle various, organisations to actually make the case to get your building fixed. It's a very bad situation.
So on the night of the fire itself, in phase one, the fire brigade was very criticised, wasn't it? The London Fire Brigade, saying that they were ill prepared for such a fire. Are you confident that they have changed the way that they're going to go about things in the future if a similar incident were to happen again?
Well, you would hope so, wouldn't you? That's not something I can really comment on directly, the fire service, but certainly I think that what will come out of the report is, all the various failures that led to to such horrific consequences, but including systemic failures of deregulation and inadequate regulation and control of the construction sector, which was allowed to put profits before people. Again, with horrific consequences. And so,
as a final thing, what do you hope is going to happen next?
Well, obviously there must be consequences, or nothing will change, and it'll just be a matter of time before we see another Grenfell. So the lessons must be learned. But practically speaking, what we want is we want to see this government now step up and grasp the nettle and actually accelerate the pace of remediation, make the funding available, enforce penalties when others are not, doing what they should do. Angela Rayner said the other day, that 7 years after Grenfell, the action has been too slow and there's been too much passing the buck, and that she would end the foot dragging. So what we need to see now is that, translated into action on the ground, because, the government really just must step up and make sure all buildings, irrespective of height, are made safe, and all leaseholders and residents are protected in full. And that is the only fair way to deal with this crisis.
Lovely. Paula Chalou, thanks ever so much for being with us. Paula Chalou there from the End Our Cladding Scandal campaign group.